Hello, everybody. Welcome to SC Podcast. I'm Dr. Caleb,
And I'm Dr. Zechariah.
and today we're covering a creepy one.
A creepy, yet somehow safe one.
So, Dr. Zach, it's been a rough week for me. I'm sure you can tell by my voice. I haven't been sleeping very well. Let's just get into why that is. So the SCP this week
Let's do it.
is SCP-072. Object classification is safe. And the following is its special containment procedures. All known instances of SCP-072 are to be contained in a 3.5 by 4 meter holding cell. Wow. Access is allowed only during authorized testing procedures. Without prior approval from Senior Researcher Grant, no materials created for the purpose of being slept on are to be introduced into a 15-meter vicinity of the holding cell. This ringing any bells?
Gotcha. This is it's Dr. Grant's murder bed they found up in Michigan way the fuck when. And as far as I can tell, this thing's only really dangerous if you sleep on it, which is why we can just kind of shove it in a box and be okay about it. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I refused this assignment, which is why I'm assuming you got it. If you sleep on this thing, you just get you get a real bad sleep paralysis, except the monster's real, and then tries to make fajitas out of your foot, out of your sweet tender foot meat.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen subjects, they as they're sleeping. I say seen very loosely because we actually don't have a really good detailed recording of what this thing looks like or what it does, but we've seen while subjects are sleeping, this little claw come out from the foot of their bed while they're sleeping and just like carve into their foot, and then we don't even know what they do with the flesh, but we've seen them take a whole ass foot before.
Like I said, I'm assuming sweet meat foot fajitas.
Sweet meat foot fajitas.
It is the only logical answer.
God, I cannot wait for Taco Tuesday now.
Absolutely, I'm gonna ruin it for everybody. We're going to HR or bust, people.
Yeah, so it's interesting because like I said, we haven't really gotten a good physical description of the SCP because it doesn't actually, it gets a little camera shy whenever it is above about 5 lux as far as light level in the room, and thus we really only see kind of wispiness. We don't really have it. We don't even know if the thing's physically there or if it's just a manifestation.
Yeah, to give you an idea of how bright 5 lux is, it is the smallest of small candles. That is what you're talking about here. And so unless you got some real sensitive camera, low light cameras, which I want to go ahead and point out to, if any of the budgetary people are missing, we can totally afford. We have actual orbiting space super weapons, but somehow we can't afford an actual low light camera for this thing. You know who you are. It's very hard to see on normal cameras.
I guess at the end of the day, we have done the SCP part of this SCP. We have contained it, and I don't think we're really protecting it, but so there's not much there's not much actually that needs to go on with it. I think I saw outside of Senior Researcher Grant, I think I saw 3 people interact with this SCP all week. I don't even know why I was put on the assignment, honestly.
Oh, I'm sure somebody out there knows a reason. But yeah, this thing is really only dangerous if you were the kind of drunk that makes you want to go to sleep, or immediately after Thanksgiving. This is the only time that sort of thing will be dangerous. That being said, I can still
when you're already sleep paralyzed.
Yeah, pretty much like when you're just high off the bird tryptophan. That being said, it's still worth pointing out that this thing can still absolutely kill somebody, and
Oh
safe does
yeah, for
not,
sure.
and safe doesn't mean like entirely free of danger. It's just that the way that it would kill you is specific enough and easy enough to prevent that it's not exactly rocket science to avoid death by 72.
Yeah, yeah. It's fairly straightforward in what it does, and like it's easier to contain than a lot of SCPs.
Yeah, it's not like we're not dealing with a reptile here.
Right, right. And like, the only thing that makes it at all difficult is uh anything that can be used as a bed within around 10 meters around it, it will manifest within that bed as well. So, as long as whatever SCP-072 object is that we know of is being locked up and contained, it's not going to spread. I don't think that there's going to be very many D-class that think it's going to be a nice little nap on it. So yeah, there's not too much that's going on with it.
Yeah, looking at the list of examples, it looks like they're not taking a too liberal definition of bed because it looks like they're just talking about like actual mattresses and a sleeping bag.
Yeah, that's something that I wanted to talk to senior researcher Grant about, but like, if a sleeping bag, I wanted to ask more about the sleeping bag specifically because that's the only like kind of odd one out. And if it's like, oh, maybe,
like there's a couch.
yeah,
Count?
like, you know uh, without reading exactly off the thing for classified reasons, the sleeping bag didn't have a bottom to it, but like, was it being used as a blanket on top of a bed, or was it just being used on the floor? And like, because then if it's just like a sleeping bag and this thing manifested, that's when it gets into weird stuff like, do piles of hay count?
Yeah, like if I throw a blanket on the floor and put a pillow there, does that count? Is the floor now a
Yeah,
bed?
and it should also be said that a lot every time that SCP-072 has manifested and done its wacky little finger bang, it's only been when the subject's foot is subject to open air, so not under a blanket or something like that.
Or if they're wearing socks.
I mean, let me tell you, I was already somebody that wore socks every time I went to bed, but after spending a week with this thing, I am never listening to somebody that tells me it's weird again.
Yeah, because you never know. Like, you never know. I mean, really, really, when you buy a mattress, do you know? Do you really know?
Exactly. This is like the worst case of bed bugs anybody's ever had. Actually, I don't even think that's true.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. Another thing I kind of want to touch on, because I feel like there's definitely more here than is on paper, is like, seriously, where does the foot meat go?
Yeah. I mean, they've destroyed some of the beds that have manifested it, and they haven't found any trace of human meat or any trace of the creature whatsoever.
Yeah, kind of wondering if this is another pocket dimension situation, because if you recall, looking over something like The Old Man, that does involve a pocket dimension, and so I kind of wondered if there's something like that here at play, because it has to go somewhere. I don't get the feeling that there's any sort of like non-corporeal entity, but if it goes into like a separate portion of reality, then I feel like there's something more testing. And yeah, I think this really is a case of budget reasons, because I feel like there's definitely more here. It's just no one's had the ability to follow up on most of it.
Yeah. I mean, when you're working in the SCP Foundation and you're told and you're like the accountant for it, like, oh, do we need to put a few grand towards researching this monster that only comes out when people sleep on this one bed at 0 light level, or do we need to put that money towards containing some truly heinous monsters that I mean, realistically, probably can't be contained whatsoever. Like, I think that you're probably going to put your budget more towards those things rather than, spare a few couple thousand for making sure that I don't have to wear socks at night anymore.
Yeah, but my whole thing is that I think we can do both.
Well,
like, I'm not sure why I don't know why we're pitching pennies. Like, we have, like I said, we have literal space lasers.
Note to the audience. Dr. Zach's PhD is not in economics.
Oh, it is most certainly not. But I'm just saying, like, reasonably, like, if we can spare, more than half the Western world's GDP for the hell of it, we can figure out why there's monstrous monsters do with the foot meat.
So what you're saying is...
I need closure.
So what you're saying is, if you can research a lizard, you can research a bed.
Absolutely, like, where's Dr. Bright when you need him?
Yeah, I think that there is some truth to that. I mean, like, I certainly would like some closure on what is happening with everything, but I don't want to interact with this any more than I have to, honestly. Like, yeah, it's very safely contained and everything like that, but, like, when you see it working its magic, or see what it does to things, because, like, it will continue to go and finger bang you until you inevitably lose your entire foot, or something disrupts it. And when you see, like, the carving into people's feet, it's I don't want to, like, if you want to spend the next week on that assignment, hey, more power to you, doctor.
I will absolutely sit in there with some night vision goggles.
Well, actually, we have a pretty crazy week ahead of us, so I think that we'll actually not have time to go interact with the toe sucker.
It's on my list. It's on my list of things to do eventually.
Yeah. I brought this up in the last episode, and this is something I think about every time I get the first briefing on SCP, but, like, how long has this SCP been around? Realistically, right? Because, like...
Oh, that was a great question.
We talked about this with the cakes, and, like, did they have to perform ritual sacrifices to, like, appease the cakes back in, like, Mayan times? Or, like, is this a more modern thing? So, like, same with the beds, like, or the scary monster under the bed. Like, humanity did not always have beds, and there were times that people were sleeping on hay bales, or, like, heaven forbid, our Neanderthal brethren just sleeping on rocks. And, like, they started having to use giant prehistoric leaves to protect their feet.
Oh, man. Oh. Yeah, or, like, did this just start happening one day 50 years ago?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know which is worse. Like, one of the things about working with the Foundation is that sometimes there's not an answer, sometimes weird stuff just happens, and that's just now part of your life.
Yeah.
I suppose it's like every other thing in the world that I like that, but in the case of just like suddenly finding out that someone stole $50 out of your checking account, it's that there are now monsters that live under your bed that want to chop off your feet.
Yeah, no, I'm okay. The other thing that I thought about when I was first put on the assignment was, like, I read the briefing a little bit weird. And I was like, oh, it comes from under your bed. So if you just live the stereotypical, like, bachelor pad lifestyle of mattress on the floor, you're safe. Nope, that's not how it works. It does not need space to manifest. It just manifests from inside your bed. And that's terrifying, because being a bachelor is already terrifying enough. Now you got to contend with creepy things in the night that want to do unspeakable thing to your little piggies.
Right? Sweet meat foot fetus. I will ruin it for everybody, Dr. Caleb. I swear.
So I'm gonna cold call you right here.
Yeah.
I want you to give me the worst possible way you could wake up.
Oh, worst possible way I could wake up. I think about that scene in The Godfather where the guy wakes up and there's just a severed horse head in his bed.
I've never seen The Godfather.
Like,
Please tell me that he woke up, saw the severed horse head, and said, "Quit horsing around."
No, because so what happened was that the horse head was under the blankets, and so like the guy felt wet, and so he moved the blankets, and see this like apocalyptic level of blood and severed head of a giant horse just under his blankets.
That's absolutely terrifying, and actually weirdly relevant to this SCP.
Oh yeah, I suppose that's true.
Because
that's true.
Have you ever heard of the painting The Nightmare? The old, like, sleep paralysis painting?
Oh yeah.
There's a horse. There's a horse in it. People think about the demon that's
Is there a horse in it?
Yeah. people think of the demon that's sitting on the woman's torso as like the sleep paralysis thing, but there's actually a horse that's like peeking through the curtain, and that's part of the sleep paralysis.
You know, as someone who doesn't have an actual phobia of horses, I appreciate that.
So the reason I ask you what the worst way you could wake up is I think that getting my foot carved on is maybe one ranking above waking up mere minutes before my alarm is supposed to go off.
You went in a much more normal direction than I did.
Well, you know, when you deal with the Eldritch monstrosity, this was your break week, so I expect you to creep into the. After dealing with an Eldritch monstrosity for a week, you're pretty much in a space of like, I just want normality.
You know, even when I have horrifying assignments, I'm still kind of a weird bastard. I'm not gonna lie.
Except you're still afraid of cakes.
Oh yeah, for good reason. That is not a normal cake, and will kill us all.
Maybe we can have churros at Taco Tuesday.
Please don't. I still haven't eaten a pastry since.
So, I thought about it. You know, they talk about Uncanny Valley and like how I know where is this going, and how the evolutionary like theory behind Uncanny Valley is like, oh, there was something that was harming us that looked vaguely human but just slightly off, and that got me thinking. You know, you see the jokes and stuff about like, oh, you're at a sleepover, your friend forgets to give you a blanket, and you just like use a couch cushion as your blanket for the night. Or like you have your friend sleep over your legs or something like that. And I wonder if this is the evolutionary reason for that. Like, we have evolved to want to cover our feet at all costs with things like fucking couch cushions, chairs. Hell, I saw somebody use a flat screen TV as their blanket once.
Yeah, foundation parties are weird. That's actually a really good proposal, and if they gave us more money, we could find out. I want to start a petition.
Please sponsor us.
Please sponsor us.
Yeah, so you know, another thing that I wanted to you know, in case 072 is specifically listening to this episode, which, you know, longtime fan of the podcast, 072. Hey buddy,
Am I?
there are people that are into freaky stuff.
Absolutely.
And they like their toes being sucked on. So if you were, you know, there to, I don't know, indulge, maybe do it to people that actually want that.
Dr. Caleb, I want to point out that the entity, who may be listening, hello entity, is not in the business of sucking feet.
Maybe he's
They are
misunderstood.
in the business of taking feet off. Maybe he misunderstood, and we're not kink shaming, we're just kink asking why.
Print it off, put it on a shirt. That's the catchphrase.
The foundation is asking. We just want to know. We just want to chat. Maybe push in a box.
Long time fan of the podcast 072. Please reach out to our email. And we'd love to have you on for an interview.
Absolutely.
We will keep the lights low, but I will be wearing socks.
We will both be wearing socks.
From a kind of fourth wall break a little bit, like, I really enjoy 072 for being kind of like a take on normal things that terrify humans. Like, sleep paralysis is like this really scary thing that people deal with. And I love that. I love SCPs that really capture that and like put reasoning behind it. So like, you know, they talk about having this paralytic effect that makes you stunned. You can't speak. You can only just feel what's happening to you. And that's something that people really deal with sleep paralysis. And then, like, you know, it's obviously the take on the myth of of like, if you have your feet dangling off the bed at night, you're like, a monster will eat it. Which, you know, leads into that whole meme where somebody's like, oh, if you leave your foot off the bed, like, a monster will come and eat it. And then somebody puts their whole bare ass off the bed.
Yeah. That's a good one.
But, yeah, I have an appreciation for SCPs that describe normal bodily things but in a horrifying way.
Yeah, I think those lend to some of the stronger entries because they're less alien. You can understand the base feeling behind what's going on and why it would be terrifying.
Yeah, I think it's just a different type of horror that SCP can deliver on. Is like, you know, you have like your eldritch monstrosities, which are really cool in their own respect, but then like things that are rooted in reality but a little fantastical are super cool.
Yeah, totally.
With that, Doctor, do you have anything else about 072 that you'd like to touch on?
Yeah, give us more money so we can find out where the foot meat goes. No.
Well, yeah, that's pretty much all we got about 072. Like we said, due to budgetary reasons, we don't know too much about this, and honestly, there's not too much of a push to actually learn more about this. But if there's ever an update, you can bet that one of us foot enthusiasts will be there to tell you about it.
Absolutely.
In the meantime, you can find the SC Podcast on Twitter /X and Instagram at scpod.cast. Dr. Zach, where can we find more harebrained things from you?
You can find more harebrained things from me at www.makeawritingcheck.blogspot.com, where I post articles and short horror fiction weekly.
Nice. And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Calica or Calica1738. Or on Twitch at Calica Plays. I have not been on there in a little over a year now, but rest assured, there are plans for it to happen in the future. Who knows how soon of a future, but a future. And Zach, we got a special next week coming. What are we doing next week?
Yeah, some numbskull allowed us to do the new higher orientation, and so we're gonna do what we can to traumatize some folks.
Yeah, so we're basically just going to be giving you a nice little info dump next week. We're going to record our orientation, and we begged the O5 Council. I was looking like the foot of the bed at that point, kissing on their feet, to let us record it and put it on our podcast. So next week you can look forward to just the fundamentals of the Foundation.
To be clear, they didn't approve. We're just doing it anyway.
Yeah, we told them it's either budget for 072 or our podcast, and they, like most of the time that we talked to the O5 Council, they were dead silent.
So we don't know if they actually approved or disapproved, but we're doing it anyway, and if we stop showing up after that, we were probably killed by an MTF.
Pretty much. So look forward to that, and we'll see you guys all next week. See ya.
Take care, everybody.